Hey folks, and welcome back to Glenn and Adrian's Rock Talk. That's Adrian.
And that's Glenn.
And today we're going to pay special tribute to Carl Palmer as we come up on his 75th birthday, which is on March 20. That may be the day this lands, but normally that's Rush Thursday, so we may put it out the day before. We have made tribute videos in the past for Keith Emerson and Greg Lake, both, so this makes sense to be doing this now. Let me see. He has played in such bands as The Crazy World of Arthur Brown, although apparently didn't show up on the recordings, but he did play with them. Atomic Rooster, and of course Emerson, Lake and Palmer and Asia. Really powerful drummer. His biggest influences apparently were Gene Krupa and Buddy Rich, both huge jazz drummers. And Buddy Rich was known for a lot of different techniques.
Interesting technique with the cymbals, playing under them as well as over them. And he even does amazing sounding things with just the sticks.
What kind of things does he do with his sticks?
I mean, to fully appreciate it, you got to hear it.
Okay. Mm-hmm. And that's a Buddy Rich thing. It was kind of a hot dog trick that he used to do.
I think we did another video of Carl Palmer where he's playing the bell with his teeth. He's got this big bell above his head, and there's a cord going down to the level where his mouth is, and he'll bite the cord and ring the bell with that.
That's right. That's something that actually shows up on their live album, The Ladies and Gents, Welcome to the Show That Never Ends. Yeah, we saw it in one of the videos that we did of Emerson, Lake and Palmer. All right, well, why don't we start off by just listening to a little bit of Carl Palmer talking about himself and about Emerson, Lake and Palmer.
I think sometimes fans forget the amount of work and sacrifice that it takes by the time you get to know a band for you guys to play at that level on that first album. Don't you think fans don't know? They don't need to know that, but you guys know that, how much work it took to get into to hit the ground running on that first album.
Yeah, well, I mean, I say hit the ground running. I mean, it was a success for sure. But that's just due to circumstance, timing, what we were doing. I mean, there's a lot attached to that, not just what the individuals sort of really brought to the table. And it was the beginning of prog rock. Yeah. And we were some of the front runners of that particular art form. So we were first in, as they say.
But did you know that at the time? I mean, the thing is, when you're, we talk to musicians all the time, say, hey, did you know you'd still be doing this at 50 or 60 or 70? And no one in their 20s thinks about being 50, 60 or 70.
I didn't have any doubt at all I'd still be doing this at my age. I didn't come into the business to become a rock star. I didn't come into the business to make money. I didn't come into the business for fame. As I told you earlier, I come from a long line of musicians. And basically, we were just interested in playing and being able to make a living. Fortunately enough, I've made a great living and been very successful and been in numerous bands that have had number one, from The Crazy World of Arthur Brown, Atomic Rooster, Asia, ELP. So I've been very lucky, but not searching for it, searching for it.
So, okay, getting off the road. How do you come down after? I was just showing my son yesterday about the energy that you've got. How do you come down from that after such a successful tour?
I don't think that it's that interesting as a question, to be honest with you. Everyone's different. I just relax for a few days and then I'm back up again. It's as simple as that, really. No big secret. There's no magic potions. It's just the way it is.
When I was reading in the book, and it's really nice that you have 3 editions of the book, I was reading the fact that you had that thing at Christmas. You didn't think you were going to get that drum kit you saw, and your mother made you think you were getting chocolates, but at the end you did. Can you still go into that kid's body and remember that time you got that kit, that red kit?
Yeah, I can. It was a surprise. It was set up in the front bedroom of the house, and she asked me to get something out of the bedroom, and I walked up and picked it up, and there it was, set up in the middle of the floor. And I was deliriously happy. That's for sure.
And a couple of weeks later, you get to see Gene Krupa on the big screen.
Yeah, I get to see him on the big screen. And then I think a couple of weeks after that, I had some lessons.
Did you, there's those defining moments we all talk about that changed the trajectory of your life. Those two things coming back to back like that. Was there no going back after that?
I think it was kind of natural. I mean, if you've ever read anything about me, you'll know that I'm from quite a strong musical background, a family, a lot of musicians. So it was in the family anyway. It was either you were going to work in one of the retail shops or you were going to be a musician. And I tried both, and I ended up being a musician.
What I take from that is he's a very humble guy. Doesn't like to be fussed over. And seems to have had the right motivation to become a musician, because he wanted to be a musician, and he had been part of a long line of musicians. Good for him on that, and he just happened to hit success. Well, that's the thing. If you're serious about your craft, that's the kind of thing that can happen. Now, that said, there's plenty of amazing talent that will never be anywhere near that level. What were your thoughts listening to that, Adrian?
I was kind of impressed by this story about how Carl got his drum set for Christmas, and he told that story. And I thought that was, I don't know, pretty heartwarming. And
For sure. That question that came up, the interviewer gave about, well, did you expect to still be playing rock and roll or whatever at this late age? He's like, well, yeah, because I was going to be a drummer. You know, it didn't really matter otherwise. I mean, that's my purpose. And it's funny because at that time, most guys in rock and roll probably had no inkling of continuing it even past their 40s or 30s, for that matter. I mean, at that time, this was only, you know, a couple years after, when was my generation? 65? You know, I hope I die before I get old. You know, it wouldn't have seemed that like this was something that would be a lifelong vocation. Now, having said that, I feel like that particular time in music history would have been the time that you would have had a lot of people who were intending to do it for life, you know, and not necessarily to get famous, because it was a more artistic season. There's always been artistry. It's just a matter of whether or not you can actually get a contract and have somebody send you out on tour, you know, on your dime, but still, you know, put up the money and maybe you sell a lot of records. It just seems like there was more integrity. There was more room to experiment. I mean, witness Emerson, Lake and Palmer itself. It was a very different kind of sound at that point when they came out.
yeah, it was, I've heard it described as like kind of folk and prog or something like that, their early music.
So yeah, they were a good matchup. They all brought something different, and it happened to work.
Yeah.
It's best, or worked for a while anyway. Okay, so that was pretty cool. So this seems like a good time now to take a look at one of his drum solos. So we're going to look at a drum solo out of the song Toccata, I assume, and it may be a standalone. We'll see. right, so of course that particular piece is on the Brain Salad Surgery album, and it's just a little piece of it. It's actually mostly arranged by Keith Emerson, but this is the percussive portion of it.
Well, I would say it was a good use of drums, cymbals, gongs, vibes, and synthesizer sequencer. The drumming is freaking amazing, and also I just was going to point out, it said on the video, but I thought I'd point out, I learned he also designed and built one of the earliest kits to include electronic drums.
Yeah, he did seem forward-thinking to me. I mean, the whole band was, in a way, you know. Okay, now we're going to take a look at Carl exhibiting his skills for an audience in 2010. He's doing this entirely on a snare drum. Let's go ahead and look at it and discuss after.
All right. It's a solo, all right. It's a drum solo, one drum, and if that's not a solo, I don't know what is.
Yeah, well, that's true.
Only Carl Palmer could make such an entertaining show with only a snare drum. Hitting different parts of the drum, you know, hitting the rim on the side, you know, also just, you know, doing things like engaging the snare and, you know, changing the sound of it and everything.
Yeah, it seemed to me, looking at him, first of all, he had the jazz grip. So he had one hand like this, you know. Mm-hmm. And I had it explained to me once, and it actually stands to reason, that the only reason that really became a grip at all is because a lot of jazz drummers would be marching together. And if you're playing like this, you're going to hit each other. You know? So if your left hand always has it like this, then you kind of avoid that problem if you're marching. But otherwise, it's probably better to just have the matched grip, you know, that most rock drummers have that we see. But it was interesting to see him do that. And I was thinking, you know, those are probably the exact type of exercises he was doing as a kid when he got that first drum kit from his parents, you know. And it's the kind of thing that you would play every single day to get really good. In fact, we've seen that before on the channel with The Warning and Bugs Gonzalez when he showed up. Remember, we did 5 videos on him, showing them some techniques, particularly on the drums. And he was doing a lot of those same things, you know, talking about center of gravity with the sticks, you know, and you also notice that Carl there was using every piece, every part of the drum to find a unique sound that he could use. So he was really getting quite a bit of range out of just that one snare drum. I mean,
amazing. Sometimes he'll do something with the sticks too, just the sticks, and even that's interesting.
Sure. Yeah.
That's pretty cool.
Well, he is
pull that off. Yeah.
He is dedicated to the craft of drumming. You know, so I suspect that that's something he's been doing. I mean, by 2010, he's been doing it for 50 years, easy. And yeah, I mean, really, anybody aspiring to drum, I mean, that's the kind of thing you want to work with. You know, the rudiments, essentially. I mean, he's going past the rudiments there, but there was just so many useful things that you could work on that were in there. So he had a famous kit back then. In fact, matter of fact, let's go back now and just take a look at the last couple of clips we just looked at. So just as a refresher, that looks like a stainless steel kit to me.
Yeah, it looks that way to me too.
Let's watch Danny Carey play this thing now. So Danny Carey, of course, is from Tool, and we watched him recently because he was also in the group Beat that played the King Crimson material with Adrian Belew and Steve Vai and Tony Levin. So yeah, so we're familiar with just how great a drummer he is. Let's see what he does with Carl's kit here.
The whole kit's 2.5 tons.
So, yes, as they said, the whole kit weighs 2.5 tons or 5,000 pounds, which is unreal. It has that thick, industrial, heavy sound to it, to my ears. Definitely thicker than a wooden shell drum kit. There's a lot of drummers I'd love to hear playing a kit like this, actually.
Yeah. Lucky SOB having the time of his life. Good for him and God bless him. Danny Carey is a shabby drummer himself. Very fitting that he gets a chance to play Carl Palmer's set.
Thanks to owner Dave Frangione. I see. Okay. So this actually belongs to someone else now. And so he was allowed to come over and play it. Nice. So apparently that kit has been sold off, probably because it weighs 5,000 pounds. It's like, if you don't,
how do you get that on the stage?
You can afford roadies. That's how. That's how. So, yeah, pretty amazing. So now you get a sense of just how serious Carl is about his drumming, about doing what it takes to get the sound he wants. So, all right. So with that in mind, he's still playing. The last thing we're going to look at is Carl Palmer going over his kit in 2022. He was on tour for something called Welcome Back, My Friends, The Return of Emerson, Lake and Palmer. Of course, he was the only living member at that point, but he used technology to bring Greg Lake and Keith Emerson into the show. So he went on tour and used video that was taken of both guys in 1992 when they were playing on that tour. The original idea was to use holograms, but then he decided that really wasn't to his liking, said it wasn't an honest approach. So instead they used actual video footage from the 92 Royal Albert Hall show, and they had nice audio and everything, so they were able to do that. Let's go ahead and take a look here.
To Modern Drummer. I'm starting my part of my anniversary tour. I'm using footage of Greg and Keith from the Royal Albert Hall in London, and we managed to put a lot of editing, put it together in such a way where we can actually play along with them. They'll be on the side screens, a 12 foot by 9. Each side there's a 16 foot by 9 downstage. So we should have quite an interesting evening. Got Paul and Simon with me, been in my band for a long time, and we'll be playing the old favourites like Hoedown, Carmina Burana, Tarkus, you name it. So it should be very cool. So anyway, come along and check it out. Today, what we've got here is the 100th anniversary Ludwig drum set. So that was 2009. They brought out a stainless steel set. I've been looking for one for years. I actually left Ludwig because they wouldn't make me one back in the 70s. I think they made John Bonham one, and I went off. And I made my own stainless steel drums.
Okay, now we're going to go up a little bit in this video and take a look at a drum solo that he did on this kit. And I'm just interested to hear how closely it resembles the one we heard for Toccata, because it should be pretty close, right? So let's go ahead and check that out. So that's the first time I've ever seen a drumstick solo. No drums are required. Just the sticks.
He does some amazing things. Well, we saw the video with just the one drum. I mean, that was impressive.
Yeah, and this just felt like kind of the same exact thing, just using more drums.
Yeah.
A lot of the rudimentary stuff, you know, that and then building on that and you know, putting tricks together and other things. And it sounds like this was part of the show that he was mounting. So I don't know if he triggers when the song comes back or if he's actually got it all mapped out. I don't think so. I think there must be some kind of a trigger or something, like a switch he can hit for the band to come back in.
Yeah, this is something they might have at the end of a war movie or Olympics or something like that.
And I liked the way those drums sound. I mean, they do sound big, thick, and heavy. I mean, it did, to me, sound like Bonzo, you know, John Bonham. Felt like, you know, Bonzo's Montreux. If you listen to that, the drums sounded very similar there, you know, as here. So he was probably using stainless steel drums there. That was funny. Ludwig made a kit for John Bonham, but didn't want to make one for Carl. Maybe Carl asked first, and then John Bonham came along, and they're like, well, okay, we can't keep telling these rock stars no, you know, like it's not good publicity. I don't know what the story is there, but was a great idea to have one. It sounds amazing. It was the right kit for this band. You notice he didn't have the bell this time. I guess he's gotten rid of the bell, which to me sounds like good health advice, you know.
Yeah, probably. You don't know how much your teeth can take, you know, just like ringing a bell.
Yeah, that too. But I'd be worried about my neck muscles and just everything, you know, accidental mild concussion, you know, any of that stuff. Anyway, very, very impressive. He doesn't seem to have lost very much in the last 50 plus years, you know, 60 years, I guess, really, that he's been playing professionally. But man, amazing and highly skilled drummer with all, you know, can run the spectrum of sensitivity for whatever's needed. So, you know, perfect for jazz fusion or progressive rock or you know, whatever he wants to do.
Yeah, he's got signature symbols, among other things.
Yep.
You know, with his name on it.
Yeah. Well, by now, he'd better be able to do that.
Yeah.
Yeah, cool to see that. And did you notice also he's still using electronic drums? He had a Roland V drum up there.
I didn't notice the Roland V drum, but I believe it. It sounds like Carl Palmer to have some synthesizer pads on there.
Yeah, it was actually in exactly the same spot that one of the other drums were back in '74 when he put together that electronic drum kit.
Makes sense. He already know where it is and everything.
Yeah, but the technology has changed immensely in the time since. So, well, anyway, we want to wish Carl a very happy 75th birthday, and we hope that this video helps kind of give you a better appreciation for what he does on his drum kit. In case you didn't know, I mean, there's a lot of people that don't know at this point. Their heyday was really 50 to 55 years ago. That was when they were the biggest. I mean, yes, they had other great moments after that, but that was kind of the heyday. So for a lot of newer listeners, they may need to bone up on these guys. And so if you enjoyed this, maybe take a look at the Greg Lake tribute we did and also the Keith Emerson. Okay, I'll make sure to put those in the cards. That is to say, if you look under the description of this video, you'll see links. So, folks, why don't you let us know what you thought of this video? And if you have any memories associated with Carl Palmer, if you ever saw him live, if you ever saw him play a drum solo live, which you probably did if you saw him live, but nonetheless, just let us know. Did you own all the ELP records back in the day? Have you seen him in any of his other projects? I mean, Asia certainly got huge for a while there. And apparently they still tour, although no original members except for Jeff Downs, I believe. But yeah, just give your thoughts. And if you have other suggestions for us, please leave those below. And if you enjoyed this video, please give it a like. And if you enjoyed our presentation, please subscribe. All right, thanks so much for joining us. And we'll catch you on the next one, all right? Take care, folks.
Happy birthday, Carl.